silently for the presentation of the national anthem of the United States of America.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets spread the land, the bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
So good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So thank you for being with us for this annual occasion. Our fifth graders do such a great job with Veterans Day, so we're grateful for all of you who are with us in person and those gathering with us virtually. We know it's a little bit a different time, but this is an important celebration and part of our school tradition. But as we are a Catholic school, we're gathered here to remember our country and those who have served our country, but we're also here to remember that all things we do in the name of God. So let's take a moment and place ourselves in God's presence as we ask God to be with us. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. In God of life and love and all that is good, we gather in these challenging and turbulent times. We gather in these times of uncertainty, where there is oftentimes division among people, where there is oftentimes this disruption to our lives. But as people of faith, we are always mindful of the gift of faith you share with us and our call to serve others in your name. And as we gather today to celebrate Veterans Day, we also especially give thanks for the freedoms that you give us here in our country. We lift up in prayer all those who are serving our country currently, all those who protect those freedoms each day for us. We also lift up in prayer those who have made the great sacrifice of their lives for the good of our country. We ask that they live in peace with you forever. Give thanks for all those who have been part of our military over the years, all of those who have given of themselves for the good of others. And as we gather here to celebrate our freedoms, let us never take for granted all that you share with us. May we always use those freedoms to make life better for one another and for those around the world. And as we gather today, keep us mindful of your blessings amidst the challenges, so that we may always go forth and be your humble and loving servants. And we ask all of this through Christ our Lord. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. I invite you to please be seated.
People often wonder why the songs are going to sacrifice so much to protect the freedoms of America. Our military men and women leave behind the comforts of home. They put their dreams on hold. They leave family and friends behind. They place themselves in harm's way and endure incredible hardship. They suffer physical and emotional wounds too great for some of us to ever understand. They risk their very lives for strangers who will never know their names. They sacrifice so much because America stand for freedom to worship, the freedom to pursue all your dreams, the equality of the men and women in our country, the right to vote, the protection of the helpless and less fortunate, the right to justice. Our country is blessed with heroes who heard the call to join our military to protect these freedoms we hold so dear.
Skelton was a comic who delighted his audience with characters he had perfected over the years on his weekly television show, The Red Skelton Show. On January 14, 1969, Skelton offered his television audience his reminiscence of an incident from his schoolboy days in Indiana. Mr. Laswell, Skelton's teacher, felt his students had come to regard the Pledge of Allegiance as a daily drudgery to be recited by memorization. They had simply lost any sense of the meaning of the words they were speaking.
I went through the seventh grade, up to the seventh grade. Now, I had told him I was taking it over because I was hungry. I work in summer, I go to school in winter. But I had this one teacher who was the principal of the Harrison School in Vincennes, Indiana. To me, this was the greatest teacher, a real sage of my time, anyhow. He had such wisdom. And we were all reciting the Pledge of Allegiance one day. And he walked over, this little teacher, Mr. Laswell was his name. Mr. Laswell was his He says, I've been listening to you boys and girls recite the Pledge of Allegiance all semester, and it seems as though it's becoming monotonous to you. If I may I recite it and try to explain to you the meaning of each word.
Dedicate all of my worldly goods to give without self-pity.
Allegiance. My love and my devotion. To the flag. Our standard, Old Glory, a symbol of freedom. Whenever she waves, there's respect, as your loyalty has given her dignity, that shouts freedom is everybody's job. United.
That means that we have all come together.
States. Individual communities that have united into 48 great states. 48 individual communities with pride and dignity and purpose. All divided with imaginary boundaries, but united to a common purpose, and that's love of country. And to the Republic. A state in which sovereign power is invested in representatives chosen by the people to govern. And government is the people, and it's from the people to the leaders, not from the leaders to the people. For which it stands, one nation.
One nation, meaning so blessed by God.
Indivisible. Incapable of being divided. With liberty. Which is freedom, the right and power to live one's own life without threats, fear, or some sort of retaliation. And justice.
The principle of quality of dealing fairly with others.
For all. For all, which means it's as much your country as it is mine. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
added to the Pledge of Allegiance. Under God. Wouldn't it be a pity if someone said that is a prayer and that could be eliminated from school to student?
Today, we honor every man and woman who has proudly worn the uniform of our armed forces and bravely defended America from the many evils of the world. Whether serving here at home or abroad, this elite group of individuals has ensured that we are able to live our daily lives free of tyranny and fear. This relatively small group of individuals does not ask for anything from us in return. That's a good thing, because the fact is, we can never repay them for all they've done for us. Our veterans cherish the values on which our nation was founded. They bravely answered the call to preserve them, and their service should make every American feel a deep sense of pride. Undoubtedly, we would not be standing here today without America's proud soldiers, sailors, Marines, airmen, and Coast Guardsmen who desire to liberate others from the dark grip of oppression, hopelessness, and fear. Our veterans, this group of extraordinary Americans, less than 1% who commit to something the other 99% do not, deserve our lasting gratitude and respect. Each and every American veteran has had a significant role in shaping America's past, our present, and undoubtedly our future. And again, though we cannot repay them for their many sacrifices, we must show our appreciation through whatever means possible, because without their selflessness and sacrifice, we would not be enjoying the freedoms they fought so hard to protect today. September 11, 2001, when President George Bush addressed the nation, he said, "America was targeted for attack because we are the brightest beacon for freedom and opportunity in the world, and no one will keep that light from shining." And today, members of our armed service are deployed around the world at sea, in the air, and on land. They protect to ensure America's beacon of light continues to shine, even to the farthest and darkest reaches of the book of Ezekiel, God was searching for someone who would stand in the gaps to defend a new nation. A warrior who would represent the honor and integrity of the people. Thankfully, our nation has always been blessed to have strong men and women with exceptional courage. People willing and able to stand in the gap and defend America, wherever Lady Liberty is threatened. They've answered the call to defend our nation time and time again, on every front and in every battle. They have risked their lives for the people, and for the ideals that we all share. America is the country she is because of her heroes, past, present, and future. People who put the nation's interest above self-interest, who put patriotism above profit, and who put low country above low soul. Our veterans made that conscious choice to live a life of sacrifice and serve for the greater cause. And for America, that has made all the difference. Our nation continues to draw her strength from those who have served in the past and those who are serving today. And our nation will continue to draw strength from those who will serve tomorrow, an unbroken chain, linking America generation to generation, keeping that scale of freedom, tipping in America's favor.
It was just a little white table. A group called the Red River Fighter Pilots Association, or the River Rats, set the first MIA POW remembrance table. During the Vietnam War, this group of airmen came from different branches of America's armed forces. Their missions were dangerous, and the pilots took strength from the brotherhood of courage and shared knowledge.
It was in that spirit of brotherhood that the River Rats pledged themselves, taking care of their own and having reunions once the war ended, and the POWs came home. It was at one of these practice reunions that the MIA POW remembrance table was set in remembrance of their fallen and missing comrades.
Following the Vietnam War, the tradition of the remembrance table made its way into military dining ceremonies. At the ceremonies, a series of toasts were made before being seated to eat, with the last toast, to remember until they came home, reserved for their comrades, the MIA POW table. It was just a little white table.
We used a small table to show one soldier's lonely battle against him.
We cover it with a white cloth to honor the soldier's pure heart when he answers his country's call to duty.
Place a lemon slice and grains of salt on a plate to show the captive soldiers' bitter fate and tears of families waiting for loved ones to return.
We pushed an empty chair to the table for the missing soldiers not here with us.
We lay a black napkin on the plate for the sorrow of captivity.
Turn over a glass on the table for a meal that won't be eaten.
We place a light candle on the table for peace.
And finally, we place a red rose in a vase tied with a red ribbon, with the hope that all of our missing will return home someday.
It was just a little white table.
Veterans Day is set aside to remember every man and woman who has taken up arms to defend our country. We honor every soldier, sailor, airman, Marine, and Coast Guardsman who gave some of the best years of their lives to the service of the United States and stood ready to give life itself on our behalf. President John F. Kennedy once said that a nation reveals itself not only by the people it produces, but also by the people it honors, the people it remembers. 26 million military veterans walk among us, and on this day, our nation salutes them all. At this time, we would like to show our appreciation and say thank you for all of your service to our country. Those who served in the United States Army, please stand.
please stand. Those who served in the United States Navy, please stand. Those who served in the United States Air Force, please stand. Those who served in the United States National Guard, please stand. Those who served in the United States Coast Guard, please stand. If you are here representing a loved one who has served our country, please stand. Let us all stand and bow our heads in a moment of silence to remember and honor those who have gone before us. Please be seated. Today, as we say thank you to all America's veterans, we realize that many of our veterans can't be here with us in person because of the pandemic our country continues to fight today. Although we wish every veteran could be here so that we could give you all the praise and thanks you deserve, it just wasn't possible this year. But it is during these trying times when we wish for nothing more than to be together that we want to make sure all of our veterans, especially those who couldn't come today, know that we appreciate them for their service and honor them for their sacrifice. Please turn your attention to the video presentation and our tribute to you all.
What is it, and why do we celebrate it? Veterans Day was originally called Armistice Day to commemorate the final day of World War I, often referred to as the Great War, or the war to end all wars. The war ended at precisely 11 a.m. on the 11th day of the 11th month in the year 1918. It was first observed exactly 1 year later by the winning nations, ceasing all business and social activity for a period of 2 minutes in honor of those that had given their lives during the war. In 1938, Armistice Day became a national federal holiday in the United States. Several years later, in 1954, the United States Congress, at the urging of President Dwight D. Eisenhower, officially changed the name to Veterans Day. This was done in order to honor all veterans of the wars that have been fought by the United States. So what does it mean to be a veteran? Most people, it means that the person being described as a veteran is someone who has served his or her country in the military or naval services of the United States, which means they served in the Army, Navy, Marines, Coast Guard, or Air Force. To me, it means that they are a person that has stepped forward as a draftee or a volunteer and fulfilled his or her civic responsibility in the service of the United States of America in peace or in war. Most of the veterans in this room, or at their homes, probably served in World War II, Korea, Vietnam, First Gulf War, Iraq, or Afghanistan. If they didn't serve in any of these conflicts, they served during the time periods that these wars were fought. And as time passes, fewer and fewer of these fine Americans are alive to be honored by us today, especially our World War II and Korean War veterans. As a member of the generation born right after World War II, most often referred to as the baby boomers, I grew up in the 1950s and 1960s. My father, his two brothers, my brother-in-law, and his stepfather all served in the Army in Europe and North Africa. My father in the infantry during the Italian campaign, his oldest brother in France during the Battle of the Bulge as a paratrooper, and his middle brother as a pilot flying in North Africa and Italy. On my mother's side of the family, her four brothers and one brother-in-law also served in the Army in the Pacific Theater in India. As a young boy, I was continuously fascinated by their stories and accomplishments. Fast forward to June of 1970. I became the black sheep of the family. I became a U.S. Marine. It's been 50 years since I swore an allegiance to defend, obey, and protect the Constitution against all enemies, both foreign and domestic, in 19 years since I retired and hung up my uniform. Yesterday, in November, I celebrated the founding of the Continental Marines, as the Marines were then known, on its 245th birthday. But regardless of what branch of service, when or where your family member served, you should always be proud and respectful of their service. And stepping up to serve, they gave of themselves to serve their country, your country, that they performed their duty knowing full well that their service might include the ultimate sacrifice. This willingness to serve and sacrifice is what makes our veterans and our country what it is. The land of the free, the cause of the brave. Always remember this. It is not that we could and others couldn't. It's that we did and others didn't. Enjoy your freedom today and in the future.
Charles Leonard, Sergeant David Anderson, Brian W. Bachelora, David Aldrich, Colonel Mark Bartholomew, Ivan L. Bacon, Doug Bailey, Colonel Charles S.F.C. W. Beck, Major Darrell Beck, Wise Weedhill, Jim Bills, Robert Baker, Raymond Clinton, Mary Baker, Martin Buckner, Jim Burns, Jack Carwell, Brad Gills, Albert Rule, Ben Roll, Emily Rogers, Jared Rogers, Amy Rogers, Colin Vaughn, Dennis Vaughn, Elton Vaughn, Jim Rogers, Bill Carlson, Dennis Carver, Don Cohen, Tim Collin, Rick Martin, Katie Coon, Jimmy Coon, Connie Coon,
Hollis L. Bounce III, Hollis L. Bounce Jr., Stephen M. Bounce, Constantine Easkins, Jerry Dahlstrom, Andrew C. Drinkle,
Philip Rhodes,
Donald Clarence Cooper,
Randolph Cook,
B. Cunningham, Corey Taylor, Brandon M. Gideon, Dr. Irvin H. Dorsch, Cheryl Barrett, Ed Jackson.
Cecil W. Collins, Robert James Beasley, Marshall James Ford,
Bob Fripp, Michael Vincent Ferrara, Michael Vincent Ferrara Sr., Michael Gunter, Vincent Morgan Pierre, Elmer Dearborn,
Joey Garcia, Peter Garcia, Don Golden, David Hager, Carlos Guerrero, Ian Hines,
Roderick Gonzalez, Sergeant Matthew J. Gonzalez, Alfonso Gonzalez, Dave Johansson, Jeremiah Holsey, Don Hahn, Gary Huguenin, Stephen McKenna, Roger Hutchinson, Derek Jackson, Harry Kelly, William Hill,
Joe Casper, Fred O'Dolan, Don Norton, Ronald E. Hinkey, Clifton Hodges,
Benny Hayman II, Drew Hayman, Lance Hayman, Benny Hayman I, Terry Stone, Bill Knight, Joe Kelly, Peter Charles Gish, Norman Ayer, SSB Bradley Christel, Jim Leiden, LTC Anthony McGowan, James B. Myers, Arnold J. Eisenberg, Everett Melberger, James Denton, Bob Brady, Richard Shelby, Anthony James Russell, Cobb Wynn, Bob Perkins, Robert Boggs, John Hewlett, Jim Perkins, Mike Perkins, Charles Twinton, Sharon Bruce, Daniel J. Rowan, Chrissy Newman, and Colonel Ernie Hoodum, Ann Ransom, Ron Brennan, Ian Spencer, Jody Spencer, Sean Diddy, Alright, Nell Sumner, Wallace Greenham, James Meyer, Ron Meyer, Raymond Burr, Louis Mack, John Smith, Al St. Jude, Steve Tomlin, Ben Teeman, Charlie Thompson, Dan Thompson, John Thompson, Carl John Pepper, Ronnie Hester, James Spinner, William Spinner, Richard Palmer, Jeffrey Herron, Roy Tye, James Taylor, Charles Pace II, Jeff Timmons, Joseph Zezilak III, Frank Watts, Gerard McClintock, William Shue, Harold B. Thompson, Brian McClintock, Emmett McClintock, Tim McClintock, Bob Eckert, Colette Meyer, Frank C. Meyer.
Today we have gathered to honor the veterans of our school and parish community, and it is with great honor that I introduce to you our guest speaker of the 2020 5th grade Veterans Day Assembly, Emily Rogers. Captain Rogers entered active duty in the United States Air Force after being commissioned through ROTC at Oklahoma State University. She began her service at Vandenberg Air Force Base, California, with the 381st Training Group, where she was trained as a missile launch officer. Captain Rogers continued her service as a member of the 351st Missile Wing, Whiteman Air Force Base, Missouri. While at Whiteman Air Force Base, she served as Deputy Combat Crew Commander in the Division of Evaluation and the Combat Crew Commander in the 509th Missile Squadron Training and Evaluation Flight. Her service at Whiteman Air Force Base culminated as Executive Officer for the 351st Operations Group. She was an active member of the Wing's Deactivation Quality Improvement Team, which accelerated the Minuteman II drawdown after the signing of the Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty. Captain Rogers' service continued while she trained as a computer and communications system assistant officer with the 81st Training Wing at Keesler Air Force Base, Mississippi. She completed her final assignment as a Weather Communication Standard Systems Manager at Headquarters Standard Systems Group, Tinker Air Force Base, Oklahoma. After leaving the military service, Captain Rogers pursued her long-time interest in education. She now spends her days teaching math to amazing 8th grade students at Wildwood Middle School in Wildwood, Missouri, where she resides with her husband, Keith. Keith and Emily are the proud parents of 3 amazing kids who just happen to be graduates of OLP. Please join me in welcoming Captain Emily Rogers.
Thank you so much. I wondered who would get tasked with reading that. You did a wonderful job. That was a mouthful. That was a lot to read. Thank you. Well, I want to take this time to thank the 5th grade, Miss Russell, Mrs. Pureborn, Miss Ferris, Father Tom, Mrs. Organ, for allowing me to come back to this special place. This school holds so many memories, not only for me, but for my entire family. It's a very important part of who we are, almost as much as my uniform is today. I also want to thank these wonderful 5th graders for a fantastic program. Wow, the practice of discipline, the dedication, not only of you, of your teachers, doing all of that with masks, I can't even imagine. I just want to thank you, and I think everyone else does as well. And then to our veterans. Saying thank you to a veteran is a hard thing to do because veterans always respond to me and say, how much your thanks. I did it because I loved it. And I did it because I knew it was the right thing to do. But still, we want to shower you with our thanks. What you do every day and what you've done. You can see it in the eyes of these kids who you've influenced. You can see that they truly understand the dedication and commitment that you've made, not only to them, but to your country. And I applaud you. As I sit and I think about the things to speak about at a Veterans Day Assembly, I think I needed to go to the source. And when I went to the source, what I mean is I went to kids. And I started talking to kids, and I said, you know, I want to know, when you think of a veteran, what comes to your mind? Just the first thing that pops in your mind when you think of a veteran. I made a mistake. No, probably not a mistake. I spoke to a kindergartner first. I love talking to kindergartners. And if you've ever spoken to a kindergartner, you know that you better have a bunch of time. Because they are the best storytellers in the world. So I sat down with the little guy, and he was telling me about a veteran. And he was telling me, he said, okay, well, try to focus in on one thing. About 5 chapters later, in the back of the story, he came down and he said that a veteran is someone who walks in the woods when it's dark and they're not afraid. Okay. Well, you know, and then I thought about it, veterans. I'm in the Air Force, and I've actually done that as part of my service. So you Army guys, wow, you've probably done that too. Maybe he was onto something. Walking without being afraid. And then I told 4th grader. So the 4th grader, a little small. She was really cool. She sat down and she said, when I think of a veteran, it's when I was listening. She said, I think of a mom and a dad holding a flag. 9 years old. And I was amazed. And then I went to an aide. And I said, tell me, what is it about a veteran that you see? He said, well, I know veterans. They're responsible for our safety and our security. But the picture that comes into my mind is a picture of some young, he didn't look at service. They wore khakis, he knew that. But he said he was carrying a woman. And she wasn't a woman from our country. So he didn't think that she lived in our country. So that means that this young person was probably away from his family in a situation that probably was unbearable for him and scary. he was carrying her and he was walking through waist-deep water, obviously some type of flood. He said, when I think of a veteran, that's what I think of. And that really touched me. I think that when we start to think about today's military and the responsibilities that these young people have who are serving, and I'm not in anymore, you guys heard that. I spend my days with kids like you, and it's one of the greatest blessings of my life. But my time in the service molded who I am. And my time in the service didn't really start when I started wearing this uniform. For that. I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. I don't get to wear the uniform often, only on very, very special occasions. When I think Father Ernie, a long time ago, would come and do Mass for kids on Wednesdays. And when he did that, he would play a game. And he called that game baseball. And I remember that he made some really good points with that game. Would you guys like to play that game, fifth graders? Okay, how many teams are there in baseball? 2. Okay. How about we have a 5th grade team, and then we have a team with veterans and their special guests. You guys up for it? 5th grade, are you feeling froggy? Okay, let me see your muscles. Okay, veterans, special guests, let me see your muscles. Okay, we have some questions here. I'm pulling out so I get them right. I was just thinking about the military today. Each team gets 2 questions. If you get the question right, it's a home run. If you get the question wrong, it's not a home run. Who should go first? 5th grade, should we let our veterans go first? Look at you pointing out that home. All right, veterans, are you ready? True or false? Humanitarian relief is increasingly a major task for defense forces. True. Guys, they have a home run. Now, 5th graders, buckle your seatbelt, here comes yours. By the way, because you left the door first, your first question is the last question. Question number 2, true or false? The U.S. military provides medical assistance in impoverished areas around the world. Okay, veterans, it's your last question. You just have to make it through one more. The U.S. military is consistently called on to provide natural disaster relief around the world. You got it. Okay. Final question, and yeah, Gregory, this is a long one. It has a lot of words. If you watched 60 Minutes last week, you'll be right on it. Did any of you watch 60 Minutes last week? Oh, we have someone. Okay, you can give me a signal if you're struggling. Okay. The U.S. Army is playing a pivotal role in Operation Warp Speed, which is an operation to develop and distribute over 300 million safe and effective COVID-19 vaccines. Okay, so you guys hit the time, and I think that's a perfect way to end that game. Nice job for everyone. I would like to share with you now a little bit of my story, and just when I think of a veteran, what my thoughts are. So I grew up in a pretty normal household. I had 5 kids in my family. It was mass chaos at all times. And I remember the day, my junior year of school, high school, where I went to my mom and I said, Mom, I've made some decisions about my future. Oh, she said, hey, great, because we've been talking and talking. And that year in high school was a very busy year. And she said, what's it going to be? What are you going to do? Because I've been talking to teachers, guidance counselors. I said, I'm going to do ROTC. I want to be in the Air Force. And in my just crazy, loud house, you could hear a pin drop. My mom just looked at me. She was completely silent. And her first words were, I said, Mom, it's like, it's what I feel. It's so important to me. And she goes, but you could do anything. You could do anything. You have a great education. part of who I am. It's part of me. My mom was one of the first female physical therapists to receive a scholarship to go to school. And that was back when it was kind of tough to be a woman in the military in the late 50s, early 60s. My dad was a pilot and engineer. It was just who I was. I couldn't even think of being anything else at that time. And then, not long after they came my baby brother. That's Lieutenant Colonel Little Brother. And he served and has recently retired. And that's his lovely family. And then it really hit me. It went, we served, we enjoyed our time, had great stories. And then about 20 years later, my daughter Amy, sitting in the front row here, was in her junior year of high school. I think I was vacuuming, is that right, Amy? And she made me stop vacuuming. And she came up and said, Mom, I decided. It's the same thing. She'd been spending so much time thinking about her future. But she said, I think I've decided. I'm going to try for an artistic scholarship. And in our house, you could hear a pin drop. And my first question to her was, ooh, it's hard, Amy. She's like, Mom, it's just ending, is what I want to do. And I said, Amy, now this is going to embarrass her. I did not tell her I was going to tell her this story. I said, Amy, you're the one who cried through all of kindergarten and first grade. You hung on your dad's leg. All the teachers at school thought maybe, there's something going on. And then I said, Amy, that didn't faze her. She was like, no, I don't do that anymore. I go to school on my own, I drive. And I said, okay, well, Amy, you're the one who in grades K through 11 could have been voted the most quiet, not only in the class, but in the entire school. Am I right, Miss Russell?
Yeah.
That's your one? She goes, I know, but I'm different now. I feel different now. And then I pulled out the big guns, and I said, Amy, even now, you're a little afraid to go upstairs sometime when it's dark and stormy. She goes, I know, I think I'm getting over that. So lo and behold, she did it. And in 1 month, she will be commissioned. On the right side, your left, that's my other son. He wasn't necessarily pulled to the same. Science, technology, engineering, and math held his attention. But I put him in the picture with Amy because he's always been her protector. Even though sometimes they're like oil and water, and I wanted him to be part of the moment being recognized. And then on the right-hand side, some of you might recognize him. Mr. Jarrett. Jarrett from ACE. Jarrett Rogers, right up here, is a lieutenant in the Air Force. He's my youngest son. And right now, he worked at ACE for a long time and also a graduate of OLP. And he will be serving as a doctor in the Air Force. So when I think about what you have on the screen in front of you, this is the tradition that drew me to make this part of my life. Tradition that we need to use. And I thank you for letting me come here and talk about them and talk about my journey. But I want to leave you with one other thing, and I want to go back to what I was talking about. When you step forward and you think of veteran, we take it to our hearts. Especially, I never left American soil to do my job, and so many did. I was separated from my family for months. But there were other people who were separated for years. I never feel like I'm worthy of that thanks because of what so many others have done. And when I talk to them, it's amazing. Even people who've been through horrific experiences, they feel the same way. So I ask them, I say, what is it that you would want your kids to know? What is it that you want them to take forward from your experience as a veteran? And undoubtedly, they bring up something that looks a little bit like this. And I'm going to put it in and acronym for you. A little slower. heard a lot of words today spoken by the 5th grade. And when you think of a veteran, these are all words that I think of as well. The first one is courage. Now, I also asked my students to come up with things about courage that they would say. So I want to read it exactly as they said it. Courage. Courage is what helps you stand up to do what is right, to protect those who sometimes struggle to protect themselves. The next one, honor. Here's what they say about honor. This is coming from kids. Honor is what helps us lift someone up and treat them as if they are special and important. Responsibility. Doing what you're supposed to do and accepting the results of your actions. Integrity. Doing what is right, even when we don't want to. Service. I don't think I need to talk to OLP kids about service. I have never seen a school, and I've been in a lot of them. I have never seen a school devoted to service like this school. This is evidence of it. You also have Little Sisters of the Poor, am I right? Every grade level has someone that they help to make it their mission. Continue that, make that part of your life. Make that part of your life. Because it's living for others. And through that, you get a joy that can only come from God's grace. And the last one, being together. Our faith tells us we're better together than we are alone. We're all called to be united because we are so much better together. So my challenge to you is this, fifth graders. Look out at the veterans and feel their strength propelling you forward to live your life day in and day out with the words you see on this screen guiding you with everything you do. Once again, thank you so much for having me here today. This has been an honor. It's been a joyous event. We just wouldn't have had it without your time and dedication. Thank you, Ms. Russell and Ms. Reed.
Thank you, Captain Rogers. Veterans Day isn't just a day for veterans. It's a day for all Americans. It's a day to remember why they were fighting, and a day for all of us to honor their journey of protecting our freedom and the freedom of many future generations. To our veterans, you have done your duty for your families, for your communities, for your fallen comrades, and for your country. You have honorably served your nation with great distinction, and we can never say it enough. For you, our veterans, for your service to our country in times of war and in times of peace. Thank you, and God bless you.